Abby.
And I'm Lauren.
And welcome to American Duchess's live stream for Friday.
Yay.
I have like a thing growing out of my head there, and I can't stop staring at it. But we're here to talk to you today about 18th century pattens / overshoes / clogs. And talk about a little something that we have and what our future plans are. Hold on, we're not ready for it yet. I have to cue the music first. I have to cue the music first. But first, before we get into this, as always, this is live right now. It is 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And that means that we're live. If you're watching this, say, at 6 p.m. Eastern time, it ain't live no more. It's now a recording. So if you're watching this right now with us, awesome. If you're going to watch a little bit later, just remember it's not live. So what that means is that if you get sick of us talking or you're bored or you want to get to the point, just scroll the thing forward so that way you don't have to listen to us be us.
Right, and because we take questions you know, live, so if you type questions down into the box right now, but not later, but now, they'll come up on our screen and we will answer them live on the video right now.
And if we don't get to them during the live stream, of course, we'll come back and answer them as best as we possibly can later in the comment section.
With our fingers!
Dang it, what you did. I just have the maturity level of a 13-year-old boy, and every time she says that, I go into 13-year-old boy Abby giggle mode. Okay. So our big, I was trying to say our big thingy.
Our big thing.
Our big thing. Hold on.
Put it down. Put it down. Okay, I think they got the point.
So we found a little treasure.
Treasure.
A very actually little treasure. I don't know what I was on Meg Andrews for, but I was on Meg Andrews looking up something. And I came across a single 18th century overshoe, which is what is currently in Lauren's hand that we're holding up here. And it was at a very reasonable price. And I was like, Lauren! And then she was like, ah!
That's exactly
And then
how
we were
it
like,
went.
Chris, guess what we just found? And then he was like,
The reason that we were so excited about this is because this is a pattern or an overshoe from, I'm going to guess, around 1750. 40, 50, 60, you get this style and shape of overshoe, which are the very pointy style of shoes with the big French heels. The reason why I was so excited is because a couple years ago, I did make a spec for this for our factory to try to reproduce these for the use with our shoes, and they were like, what? No, we can't do that. So sometimes when we run into problems like that, the best thing to do is to get an original. Getting your hands on an original anything from a shoe or anything from the 1740s or 50s or 60s is like impossible. Getting your hands on a patten, it was like stars aligned. It's a single patten. It was a very reasonable price, and it was from Meg Andrews, probably because it was single, not a pair, that we were able to get this. And now we have exactly what we need for our trip to China next week to take over there and to try to reproduce this for the use with our shoes. You guys, yay! This is very, very exciting. This is very exciting.
So what this means for you all is that hopefully this will result in an overshoe that will be able to be worn with, ideally we want to try to make it applicable to as many of our 18th century shoes as possible. Obviously this is a slightly older style, but for those of you all who wear Kensingtons, who wear Dunmores, you know, we want to try and make it work so that way it can kind of work with multiple shoes. Obviously, it will never be an exact fit and won't be completely perfect, but hopefully you guys kind of understand it's like, this is what we have, this is what we're working with, and if this does well, then we can expand into other overshoes and things like that. But right now, this is what we have to work with. So what we're gonna hopefully do is have it fit one particular shoe very closely that you haven't quite seen yet.
We've alluded to it.
But we've alluded to it.
So the shoe that we're going to specifically make these work for is a new, you want to hold the baby, is a new 18th century shoe we have coming out for fall called Fraser.
Get it?
This is the same time period as Pompadour, but it's leather and it has latchets. We're doing
a slightly lower heel.
And a slightly lower heel. It's a 2-inch heel. Pointed toe, pointy latchets. We've got dog leg seams here, which is the earlier style for the latchet. The white rand. These are the perfect time period for Outlander, right? French and Indian War. Anybody that reenacts or is going to do dress up for earlier 18th century stuff. The latest these can go is about 1760.
Yeah.
That's when the silhouette starts to change all the way back into the 17th century. So Fraser are the shoes that we're going to make the pattens for.
To fit exactly.
The pattens are going to be sized so that you're going to have, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, and so on for your patten as well as your shoes. So if you wear a size 7.5 shoe, you're going to order a 7.5 patten. Yeah. That's if we can convince our factory to actually make these.
Yeah, but the thing is that they should actually do it, because upon inspection of this little baby here, and I know it's hard to see with just the selfie cam, and it's a dark brown leather, it's worn, and then the straps that actually go over the shoes were black velvet. So she is kind of hard to see. She's actually very straightforward in her construction.
Yeah, let's try and get a little bit of a close-up here.
So let's see this. Oh, the lighting's actually better that way. So she does have her original plain silk ribbon here with a bit of picot edging. So we're just going to try to move this out of the way ever so slightly. So you can see the stitching there of attaching the insole and the outsole. It's both just very thick leather, just basically very similar to what we use on our shoes already. And then
soling leather.
Soling leather. And then you can see the stitching here that goes up and then down. This is what is attaching the strap to the insole.
The arch, yeah.
There.
Which is, it's a wedge created probably with cork.
Yeah. We don't know if they're going to be able to make it out of cork or if they're going to use wood. It's going to be one of the two. And then we turn around ever so slightly. You can now see the bit here for the heel to sit in, and then how it would sit just ever so slightly, maybe just outside of the heel, flush to the heel. So this is a really tiny shoe, and we have a funny story about who we think owned this shoe. That it revolved from like what, a 2-week debate, 1-week debate.
We've only had it since Monday, so
it feels longer than that. But the idea is that this will be a better, more true fit to the Fraser, but that we want it to be able to fit, say, the Kensingtons. So the back of the heel here obviously will not be a true fit. It'll be a little bit bigger than the Kensington heel. And same thing goes for the Dunmores. But what I know, especially since a lot of my friends wear Dunmores, and I've heard people talk about Dunmores before I even started to come and work here, is that the size of the heel is a little scary for them when it comes to being outside. So it's older style, but guess what kind of solves the problem?
This ties in with a question we had up above from Rebecca that says, for an 18th century noob, how does this work? Okay, let's back up.
Glorified flip-flop.
What are pattens? Pattens are, sometimes they're called overshoes or clogs. They are they're like flip-flops that you wear over your shoes.
But to clarify, you will see pattens being used specifically for an outside shoe that will have a sole like this, and then it has an iron ring attached to it. Now, the general rule of thinking is that those type of pattens are actually worn in cities that are paved. So what that means is that if you're in a paved city, you could get away with wearing an iron ring patten. But if you're in, say, an unpaved city like Williamsburg, Virginia, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
These are what they would have worn.
They're like 18th century wedges, kind of. So you get your heel, you get the height of your heel, and you slip your foot into the straps here. And I know this is a little bit hard to see. Be very careful. you slip your toe down in there. The straps come up over the vamp.
And it would tie over that. If you see the originals that have their matching overshoes with them, it kind of ends up around the ball of the foot where you really need to help keep your foot secure. And then the one person I know who's actually made a reproduction of overshoes is Nicole Rudolph. And when she wore them all the time to work, what she learned is that they kind of have to flop. So these are going to be something that they're going to
flop at the back.
They're going to be kind of quirky, and you're not going to be like, you're going to be like, whoa, what is this? But our goal is once we get these samples made, once we get these things going, we're going to be able to teach you guys how to walk in these and show you what they're supposed to do. Yeah. And if it changes your gait, you know, what makes that kind of interesting is then all of a sudden you're starting to walk more like an 18th century person.
It's a real experience, kind of like our button boots where you have to use the button hook. So 18th century pattens are a real Georgian experience.
Yeah, it's going to be a unique thing. But it's going to be cool. What this will do is help preserve the life of your shoe. Yes. So if you're someone who's very particular that you don't want to put the rubber protection on the bottom of your leather soles of your 18th century shoes, if you want to be able to wear these outside in the mud and not get them ruined because you spent, you know, money on these shoes and you want them to last a long time, these are going to help you do that. And they're also going to be more accurate. And so it's going to be that fun play of super accurate protection, long-term wear and tear, and we're hopefully they're going to be very affordable too. That is our goal. And guess what, guys? The UPS man just showed up.
I have to go sign for packages. I'll be right back.
So yeah, that's the plan. Really excited. Now, one of the things you've probably noticed about the size of the shoe that's in my hand is that it's teeny weeny baby shoe. It's teeny weeny sized. And I do have big hands, but it's still a tiny shoe. Lauren and I had a lot of fun debating this because when we first got it and we opened it up and it was in like a Quaker Oats box. We were like, oh there. We were looking at it and my gut reaction was that it was a child's shoe. A child's overshoe, and then Lauren wasn't completely convinced.
I'm still not convinced.
So we're out for debate.
Okay, we're back.
It could be
a child's pattern. It could be an adult pattern. The fact is we will never know.
Never know.
Because the footwear was the same.
Yeah. So, but we're really excited about it. And you can tell it is teeny weeny. But we had a fun little couple of days debating this this whole thing. So I believe it's a child's pattern. Lauren thinks, well, you're not convinced one way or the other.
I was surprised at how large original 18th century shoes actually are. I mean, very large, like modern sizes. When you look at the measurements of these shoes in museums like the MFA that provide measurements, we're talking about a modern size 8B width. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's one that is exactly the size of our size 6 pompadour length and width, which is astounding.
Even the heel height was like, it was
even
very
the heel
close.
height. So we had some questions. When will the Frasers be available? These are actually in production right now. So we're going to open pre-order on Fraser and the other fall things October 3rd. Yes. The Pattens, however, are not going to be available by fall because we've just now got our hands on this cutie. Just now. And we are going over we're going to spec it and we're going to take this over to China with us next week and talk about making these, hopefully, if we can, and we might have quite a lot of time sampling to get them right. Yeah. We're going to try and have them out by next summer.
Well, that'll be good for the summer season.
Yep, so you can match them up with your shoes, whether they're Fraser, Pompadours, Kensington. We're going to try and make them fit everything. We had some questions quite some time ago when considering patents before about soling material. We are going to use leather soles, a sealed leather sole. This has a sticker on the bottom, but the soling that we use now is a lot harder than the soling that we used to use, and it's much more water resistant and durable.
And we also sell mink oil, so that way you can get these and buy the mink oil and treat the soles to help make them last even longer.
Because of course the purpose is that when you're wearing your nice shoes out, your $160 or $170 shoes that you buy, and you trash them, let's say it rains in Williamsburg and you're on oyster shells and you thrash the soles and you're like, oh my God, these were expensive and now they're ruined. Buy the Pattens because it's a lot cheaper then as it will be now, or now as it was then, to replace Pattens than it was to replace your entire shoe. So we have some questions. Yeah. Did children typically wear heels?
Depends on the age. So obviously very small children wouldn't, but when we're talking someone who probably This, we estimate, if it was like on the flat and depending, because Sarah also asked about like, would it be the arch? And that's kind of where the debate kind of came from between Lauren and I. This is not a very high arch right here for the heel, so the heel would have to sit up a lot higher, where if you look at originals, it's actually a lot higher if the heel is higher. And so that's kind of one of the big debate points for us. That this is probably what, like a size, modern size 4?
I'm thinking it's a modern women's 4 to, I would say 4.
And here's the thing with a modern size 4 is that kids wear those sizes.
Yeah.
I did when I was like 7.
So kids, young ladies would wear heeled shoes,
but yeah,
just
they would.
like adult shoes. And when you see really, really tiny, fancy shoes in collections, again, you can't definitively say that they're children's, like a young lady's shoe or a very small woman adult shoe.
The same thing goes for gowns. Just because the gown is small doesn't mean it was worn by a tiny woman. It was probably worn by a 14-year-old girl. Because we were all smaller when we were 14. Let's not talk about that.
And she says, it's like the thingies that I use for my riding tall boots to keep them clean and mud-free when showing. Yeah, it's exactly the same idea. So we're very excited about the Pattens. Again, for those of you who have just tuned in, who are not sure what we're talking about, Pattens overshoes is probably the most descriptive term. Sometimes they're called clogs, which we have kind of a modern definition for clogs. These are shoes you wear over your shoes to protect your shoes. It keeps the heels from sinking into the mud. It keeps the leather soles from becoming too saturated with moisture and then doing the whole like breaking down and falling apart too quickly. So they're cheaper shoes that you wear over your more expensive shoes. Now,
here's something that I wouldn't mind. We can have this debate in the comment section or your all's opinion. When we were looking at the materials used for the straps over the top of the shoe, Lauren and I have been discussing what we want our pattern to look like. Do we want it to be as close to an exact copy of the original as possible? Or do we want to kind of make some concessions? Because we understand that there's this very modern viewpoint that fabric isn't as durable as leather, right?
And you don't want to, if they're meant for bad weather,
you don't want to
wear fabric out, velvet out.
But here's the thing. These were velvet. There's a leather strap in the middle, basically like an interfacing. But I don't know if we're going to be able to see that or if we should angle down because there was a little bit more light.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay. So if you look like right here in the corner, you'll see the pile. That's the velvet. It's worn off pretty much everywhere else, but there's still small little bits of evidence that this strap was velvet. And you see that in originals in museums as well. It has a grosgrain ribbon on the outside binding, which we'll do that. But it has the velvet on the outside, and then in there is leather. And then the underside that's touching the shoe is wool. We are going to keep the wool. That way that'll help protect your leather shoes.
Chafing and rubbing.
No chafing and rubbing. That way too, say you have red Kensingtons or the ivory Frasers in the shoe, you don't want to accidentally get like black. Well, that would piss all of you all off, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So we want to try and protect the shoe as best as we can. So we're going to use probably a neutral wool, so that way it doesn't do that. So it protects your shoe.
Should the outside straps be velvet
or leather?
Or leather. I think they should be leather because of durability. But velvet is accurate. Most of the patents that we have in collections remaining are velvet straps on the outside.
Yeah.
So Rebecca says, even with the velvet as a pretty bit, it's still cheaper to replace than the shoes. Yes,
yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
It is.
We're going to try to get to a price point. What did we discuss? Around $60 to $70.
Yeah. So about half the price of your shoes. I will also say, as someone who's worn, say, the Dunmores every day for like a very long time.
Since they came out. Before they came out,
actually. I've never had a problem with fabric uppers with shoes. It was the soles that gave out first. It was not the fabric uppers. And so for those of you who are concerned that the fabric uppers will give out first, don't. It's fine.
We had a question.
And it's patina, say that you wore these out to an event and you're out there for the whole weekend and it's rainy and it's muddy and your velvet, the cotton velvet is maybe not where you wanted it to be. It's not as pristine, but you know what? You were outside cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, walking around the dirt, doing what 18th century people did. So you have 18th century wear on your shoes. And that's awesome. That's so cool. So that just makes them that much more special. But we don't know yet if we're going to do leather or velvet, but I'm definitely like pro fabric.
I think
but
that's
it
one
just
that
depends.
we need to test in our incredibly rainy climate of northern Nevada. But winter is coming, so
Winter's coming.
we can stick on our, over winter, stick on our pattens and go striding around in our pattens. There was a good question up here about, where'd it go? Angie says, would they ever be stacked higher all the way around like a platform to keep you out of the mud?
This will help keep you out of the mud.
That was more of a ring thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is that the rings can't really get you through the mud. These will help protect your shoes because they do raise you up a little bit. Obviously, these have been worn. So if you look at like the sole here of the Fraser, that's how thick that is with one layer. So you're going to have probably 2 layers, maybe even more, depending on how these things get developed. So that's going to raise you out of the mud ever so slightly to help protect you. So it's going to help. And then also, since this is going to be essentially a platform, you're not going to sink into the mud either in the back.
Yeah.
So it's going to help protect the shoe. If you're wearing leather shoes, obviously you can wipe the mud off like once it dries. The same thing happens for wool too if you choose not to do the practical thing and waterproof your wool shoes.
You should waterproof
You
your
should.
wool, so wax them or spray them.
It helps, but wool is resistant, and so you can honestly just brush a lot of that dirt off.
Now, when I first started researching patents, I had kind of the same question of, because I had always read, they keep you up out of the mud. Well, they don't really. It's not really a boosting up. It's a keeping your heel from sinking in, and it's protecting the leather soles of your nice shoes. What happens when leather soles are saturated with water? We found this out at Williamsburg. They took it up like a sponge when they got saturated. It took 3 days for the soles to dry out.
And you don't put leather shoes near heat.
Because it breaks it down really, really quickly. So we've made improvements over the years to our soling that have a sealant on the outside. And as you wear them and that sealant gets worn away, you need to put the mink oil on to keep it, to keep them water resistant. But Pattens keep your soles from wearing out too quickly in wet climates. So they keep your heels from sinking in, they keep your soles from wearing out, but they don't really like boost you up.
No, they're not a ring pattern like that. But they work. We had a really interesting question. Charlotte asks, I wish to ask you this for a very long time. Can we wear your shoes on an everyday basis, or is it really just better to keep them for the 18th century events, which is more like twice a year for me? Oh,
Oopsie.
I'm trying.
Don't block Charlotte,
No.
please. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Yes.
Wear them as much as you want, girl. Work the shoe. Like, that's what matters.
Our shoes are, we use a modern factory. They are meant to be worn. They are real shoes. They are not costume shoes. They are not made out of crap materials. They're not going to fall apart. They're real shoes. They just happen to have latchets or buttons instead. Yes, please wear them every day.
And then send us pictures of how you've styled them. Yeah. That's awesome.
And if you do wear them every day, and if you work in an area or you live in an area that's very wet, especially if it snows and they're like salting the roads, we recommend that you put a little rubber patch on the bottom under the ball of the foot where the sticker is. And we sell those. You can also have it done like a half rubber sole put here at the ball of the foot. This is going to help you stay upright because leather soles can be very slick. And again, leather soles will wear out significantly quicker than rubber soles will.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But as far as like the upper goes, like it's a real shoe. It's made just like, in fact, I think it's made better than your typical shoe, at this price point made of these materials. It's made exactly the same way with the same kind of quality. It's just in this historic style.
And like I said, as my time working at Colonial Williamsburg, I've been wearing Dunmores. I wear Dunmores every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And they're fine and they held up great. I have my second pair with me because I went through one pair and completely destroyed the soles on those. And then I had the second pair that I've had since March, again wearing those every day until the end of July. And they're fine. They're absolutely fine. It's just, it depends on how well you take care of your shoes, how you dry them, how you wear them, how you use and abuse them, and where you're wearing them. Because Williamsburg, with the oyster shells and the asphalt and cement, that is harder on your shoes than what they necessarily would have had to deal with in the 18th century. So that is something to keep in mind, is that our are the ground that we walk on is not
actually a lot harsher.
It's a lot harsher.
Yeah.
We had a question about preserving shoes that you don't wear very often.
Keep them polished. Keep them in shoe bags. You want to keep the dust off of them. Leather shoes, obviously, they're a skin. They need nourishment. So a luster cream or a shoe wax or both in combination. If you're wearing them not often at all, then at least just polish them at least like once a season and keep them in a bag in their box or just in their box because you want to keep the dust off of them.
Yeah, don't be like me and have a pile of shoes on your floor in your closet
that I trip over every time I go into work. We had a question as well about will we ever make vegan shoes. We're a historic reproduction footwear company. We use historic materials, so I'm sorry, but we are not going to make vegan shoes.
No.
Okay, so we're really excited. Of course, if this goes bust, we apologize. But because we have an original patent now in our possession, I think that we can, with the combination of a very in-depth spec sheet, a technical spec, and the original sample, we should be able to get these made for next year.
It's one of those things, you know, it's like you can verbally explain them all you want, but until you see the damn thing, it's really like, what? You want me to do what? With straps?
Because of that wedge under the arch of the foot, like that is a little bit strange. You don't see that on anything modern. So we can create a wedge sandal, but this really shouldn't be that big of a difficulty to do for the factory to do. So that's our intention.
We're very hopeful.
Yes, I'm determined at this point.
We really want to get these out there.
Yes, and it will be quite the experience to wear them. And if you get Pattens from us and you wear them and you're the only person at your event who's wearing them, I guarantee you that's gonna start conversations. And the experience that you have with these flippy floppy,
be a really good
crazy
interpretation
things,
point.
it would be a fantastic
Great interpretation moment
to experience, to explain, and to display. So that's what we're going for, guys.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it since we don't have any more questions popping up at the bottom.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
If you have more questions as you're watching this back later, remember it's recorded after we end here, but go ahead and type them in the comments on the video and we will answer them.
Via the comment section. We will type them out.
With our fingers.
Phalange.
Okay, love you guys. Thank you for watching.
Oh, wait. No. We will not be here next week.
Oh, yeah. We mentioned this a couple of times, but we're going to China.
Yes. We're going to be in China. And so live casting from China is probably not going to happen. So we're not even going to try. But we will be back for the following week. Jet lagged, puffy eyed, and probably covered in silks.
I hope
so. So we're going to go to China Thursday, and we'll be back the following Wednesday.
Or something like that. And we'll have tons of pictures and lots of things to report.
And all that jazz. But we won't be here next week.
Yeah,
so we're signing off for about 2 weeks, and we'll see you guys.
And we'll have hopefully good news.
Yes.
Yep. All right, love you.
Bye.